Welcome to a fantastic afternoon in store, Wild West Hackin Fest Roundup. We love doing these. Thank you to the Wild West Hackin Fest team and the Black Hills team for letting me, MC this. I'm really excited and excited for just what we've got in store. We always love kind of giving back and getting information into everybody's hands. Hopefully everybody is safe for all those in Florida or, have had to migrate out of Florida for the time being. Just thank you for being here, but also hope that you and your families and friends are all safe. So our thoughts and prayers out to everybody that's working through all the things that are going on in Florida with the hurricane. So, but welcome. Hopefully this will be an entertaining and informational webinar for you for the next few hours. We've got some fantastic speakers. Again, as we kind of shared in the pre-banter, hopefully you enjoyed that. But the topic for today is if the red team and the blue team does not equal the purple team, then fight me, right? And so we've got in store just the theme for today is not just, we did a purple team roundup a little while ago. It's not a theme around, hey, just straight up purple teaming. It's really what are the distinct activities that red teams do and that can be, associated with everything around, the red team activities and getting into networks and identifying risks. Then what are the activities that the blue team actually lives on a daily basis? And then how does the purple team concept really bring them together? And it's all around collaboration. So that's kind of like the theme for today. We're going to be able to share with some awesome red teamers. And so like our red team representatives today, and I'm wearing the red team shirt for this session. You might see my wardrobe change throughout the day, which is going to be exciting. I promise I'll be off camera. So our red team representatives are Nick Popovich and David Schloss. Super excited to have them on. Super talented folks. I'll introduce both of them as they come up for their sessions. And then on the blue team side, we have Noah. And now it's Heckman, right? I don't want to ruin that last name.
Yeah, it's Heckman.
No, okay. Noah Heckman, and then Caitlin Wimberly. Super excited. They're both from Black Hills. Excited to share all the blue team tips and techniques and some good stuff there. And then we're going to cap it off with a fun purple team round table panel with Georgia Chiles from Scythe. Jake Williams from Scythe, and then I'll also be participating as well. So you're in store for some fun information, great information. So let's buckle up and let's get rolling. So thanks everybody for the banter, and we're excited to get kicking off. Oh, I should probably say as a sponsor for PlexTrack, we are doing a giveaway. There is a link in the chat. We have a booth that you can go visit. So we're giving away some gear, and then just excited to be able to help participate today, and excited that everybody could join us. So check out that link in the chat and our booth, and we'll get rocking. So all right, so first up we have the esteemed Nick Popovich joining us to talk about red team, all things red team. Nick is a fantastic person. If you haven't met him, I know you will be amazed, first and foremost, by his depth of knowledge. He's got a great background in security. I'm sure he will provide a brief background of him. But I first met Nick, and he was a practice director at Optiv, but has a deep background in penetration testing and red teaming. And he actually now currently works for PlexTrack and does a fantastic job. He is our hacker in residence, and we're excited to just hear from Nick today. And he's going to be talking about Trust No One, right, Nick?
That's right. That's right.
All right. So clearly he's now altering marketing buzzwords, right? Because isn't that zero trust?
That's right. That's just a new riff on zero trust. Trust no one.
Yeah. So, all right, Nick, I'll let you take it away. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy the day.
Thanks. That's awesome, Dan. Background real quick. Actually, I'm just going to share out my screen, and we'll talk about the talk, and then we'll go and I'll do a little about me. What we're going to be talking about today on the red team focus is the trusted, quote unquote, trusted third-party applications and their use in attacks, and how that can confuse the process of attribution, detection, even proactively stopping attacks. So it's going to be interesting. And then what's neat is Noah and I kind of riffed on this a bit. So the blue team talk is going to cover a lot of different cool blue team expertise that's beyond my skill level, I'm sure, but also talking about perhaps some detective capabilities to stop some of the techniques that I'm bringing up. The main thrust of this talk, though, is this is not new and novel research. This is building off of research of others, but it's really meant to bring this into the spotlight so that folks can add this to their risk model. Folks can start to formulate plans on how to react to some of this activity that I'm gonna showcase here. So first, I said I'll give a little about me. So this is my little about me. I am a practitioner since about 2009, pen testing consultatively. Spent time as a consultant, as a practice manager and practice director. Eventually moved into a Fortune 200 red team, and now I am the hacker in residence at PlexTrack. Really enjoy guiding folks to being able to use their data in wise ways to drive the appropriate change. And that's where PlexTrack fits in, the security assessment and testing output and wrangling that data. Contact info, because I get yelled at when I don't put contact info. People were actually ending up like reaching out to our like help desk ticket support asking for my contact details last time I gave a talk because I gave no contact details. So you may say to yourself, what are you doing giving this group a background in phishing? That's silly. And it is, but it isn't. So I just have some definitions of phishing. I assume most of us understand the concept. You know, these are pulled from NIST, Microsoft. But what I wanted to call to your attention is the guidance that we give on how to identify phishing typically. And just look at this. And we're going to come back to this in a moment. So the idea of phishing is certainly sending, you know, a message attempting to elicit an action that would be advantageous to an attacker. So why are we talking about phishing? We're going to be talking about how to take the trust in third-party applications that you can leverage either free or with low-cost accounts and utilize those for phishing emails and command and control traffic. So this is a background of phishing. We got it. Good. Moving on. Background of command and control, CNC. It's the idea of having an implant on an endpoint, being able to send commands and interact with that host. Really going to be focusing on this concept of the redirector, the idea of being able to send traffic from a host in front of your C2 infrastructure. And again, the idea is we're trying to obfuscate and easily, rapidly find ways to abuse the trust in services as attackers to take advantage of services for nefarious purposes. My hope, though, that is that this is going to be added to folks' threat model, and it's going to be something that folks think about because as a practitioner, I've used these techniques, 50% of the time they work, 100% of the time. And so I do want to call out that this is not attacking individual organizations. I'm going to be bringing up big names, but this is really talking about utilizing their services in expected ways for nefarious results. And so this isn't saying that they're doing anything wrong, or this isn't saying that there are CVEs related to these organizations. This is purely a business logic abuse. And the onus really is on organizations to establish their own telemetry. Now, could there be some maybe lobbying of some of these organizations on making it a little harder to get free accounts, or maybe some identity and access vetting getting access to some of these services? Perhaps, maybe there's an argument for that. But at the end of the day, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these types of services. I'm going to give you a couple examples and we're going to walk through it. So this research back in 2019 and 2020, I really got excited at the idea. And there's a lot of other researchers. I'm just calling this one out because this is the cleanest site that I've come across from Mr. Docs and his living off of trusted sites research. So when you go to this site, you can see tons and tons of these services that it can allow you to send, leverage this architecture and their infrastructure and their platforms as a service and software as a service to send out phishing email, establish command and control. We're not even going to talk about, exfiltrating data, but keep that in your mind. So the idea here, this is where the research is based off of. So let's go back. We had the background. We were talking about phishing. And earlier I mentioned, how do we train people to identify phishing emails? Now think about all of the SaaS solutions that we engage with that then are a part of normal business operations, and they send emails. Maybe it's the travel system. Maybe it's the HR and benefits system. Maybe it's some sort of perks and awards system. Regardless, that's a part of our life. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but many times we're inundated. If you go look at your corporate email right now, I bet you could find half a dozen emails in the last month that are legitimate emails. And so look, if we look at the common guidance to identify phishing and we look at a typical SaaS platform email, what do we have? We have an urgent call to action. Go here, sign your benefits, sign this thing, do this thing, go to this page. You need to do it. You need to do it by this date because reasons. This is maybe the first time you're getting this email because it's a new provider. Like, oh, you have this new system for tracking whatever. And it's meant to be used for the business. What is this? Generic greetings. Hello, employee, right? Mismatched email domain. A lot of times because folks don't want to mess with their SPF records and whatever the case may be, it's coming from, on behalf of, or it's coming straight up from the SaaS provider and it's not coming from corporate. And there's a link or an attachment that says, follow these directions, do this thing. So it's just funny how we systematically have said, these are phishing emails. And then over the last number of years, we've gone and sent a bunch of these emails and people are like, this seems like phishing. It's like, I know, but you got to click the link, do the thing, do what it says, shut up and do it. So now we think about those banners on emails, right? Or the different banners that say things like this warning, this email came from an external sender. So I'm going to take a pause and tell you a little bit about little Nikki's history. My mom used to have this saying. She said, don't put it down, put it away. She would print it out. She would make me write it if I made a mistake and didn't clean up and doesn't. Don't put it down, put it away. Instead of putting it down, put it away. Put these signs up all over the place. And you know what? Those signs mattered for like a day because I saw it and it was new. It was interesting. But there's this concept of habituation. It's a psychology concept that says once something that's in your environment, you're constantly exposed to it, the impact of that on your environment is going to diminish over time and sometimes rapidly. And so those signs that said, don't put it down, put it away, rapidly faded into the background. So relying on controls like those banners and like different things that we've put out there as far as awareness, we need to have them. We need to continue to work on them, but it's not a panacea and you don't hang your hat on them. So habituation, we've turned those email banners that say warning from an external sender into something that folks just ignore. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to burn through probably really fast. I'm going to burn through the typical route of setting up a C2 domain and a phishing domain, kind of old school style, the manual route. And then we're going to talk about how as attackers, they're skipping this because it's becoming more difficult to farm out domains. In fact, so I'm going to talk through that. But just today, it was actually very serendipitous. Just today, I saw this note from a Register article talking about newly observed domains and how there are 13 malicious domains detected per month. So what I'm about to walk through is still happening, but you notice that they're detected. So the ability to establish a presence on the internet for downloading of implants, command and control traffic, sending phishing emails is getting a little harder and you're playing whack-a-mole. So let's go through rapidly how one would acquire it, and then we'll go through how you can skip all these steps and go be mean. So I like to find expired domains. You can use tools. You can do it manually. You can come up with it. The thing with expired domains is at least they have some history. They will still show up as new because the acquisition, a lot of times these DNS threat intel services show that they were recently acquired or recently expired. But going to things like expireddomains.net and going and searching, like in this case, I searched for Richmond, and you can just find a bunch of neat domains that are relevant. Point being, acquiring domains, you either think it up, you come up with it, you use an algorithm to generate it, you get yourself a domain, and then you need to do something with it. First and foremost, you need to categorize the domain. If you have a domain that's not aged out at least 45 to 60 days, it's going to show up as a new domain. So you got to be forward thinking about it. You got to age them out. And then what you do is you go and you put benign content, redirects, nonsense blogs, just something that's generic. And then you go to all of these sites or some of these sites, and you get them categorized. And usually it's an automated process. You go in, you submit for categorization, they check you out, some automated scanning, and then you get an email like this. Oh, apparently I don't have a picture of the email. Once you get categorized, and once you get categorized by a few domains, you end up, those feed each other. So you get on a couple good lists, you're good. And what that means is that egress from the organization is allowed. You're categorized as e-commerce or as IT technology blog or something. As long as you don't have a malicious category or you're not in a unknown category or uncategorized, you'll usually be able to egress. And also for sending, phishing emails and whatnot, an uncategorized and new domain is going to have very low reputation and end up in spam filters or getting blocked. Another thing you can do to make sure that you have trust and during this process is like, this is an example. We have a lot of practitioners end up having their own list they curate, but Curious Jack has this great gist. That's a great place to start. That keeps getting updated with common, scanner engines and tools. And so you can set these up to forward and redirect scanners that are going to detect and scan your site. So you have like all of the EC2, Azure, GCP, Linode, stuff from FireEye, stuff from Blue Coat, all of these IPs that can start getting related. Some of them are, you have to kind of keep playing whack-a-mole and notice, safe links from Microsoft IPs. If you start redirecting those to benign content, then when you have automated scanners checking you out or trying to check if you're a malicious site, you redirect to benign. So it's going to confuse investigations, and also it's going to keep you up longer as an attacker, and it's going to confuse, an analyst. Many times when a SOC is analyzing something, they're going to hop into an EC2 instance or a VPS. Well, if the VPS range or the EC2 instance, they try and go to your downloader site or investigate your site and it redirects them to something, they don't get your payload, they don't get different things like that. So it's neat. So here's an example of, local conference or actually a domain, rvasec.com. Here's what it's categorized. Another, just showing you how semantic. You can check the URLs, check the category. These are also the sites where you can go and submit for a category. So This is an example of I have picklestatcage.com as a domain I own. I went and I emailed and it got this actually redirected to Nick Cage's IMDb article. And it was categorized as entertainment and arts. Funnily enough, about a week after I gave a talk referencing this domain, I got an email that notified me that it's malicious now. But good job for them notifying it was malicious, but it wasn't for about a week. So you got to go and make everything look not spammy. This is specifically for phishing, but this helps also when just establishing any kind of presence. If you need to look like a legitimate organization, and a legitimate organization has the appropriate SPF records, MX records, DKIM, DMARC, all that stuff. So go in, like in this case, I want a Gmail. So I set the, MX records for Gmail. You go in, you need to set up the sender's policy framework records, the text record and DNS. If you set that up appropriately, you're telling the Internet of Things, no, not the IoT, but you're telling folks that query SPF to say, these are the ranges and servers that are allowed to send emails on my domain's behalf. So I set up, appropriate SPF records. The domain keys identified email. This is where your email system, you set up a private key pair, and the email system is going to sign the messages with the private key. You publish the public key to the internet in DNS. And so email systems can check the signature of your emails. And so the idea being like, if you have the SPF record, you have DKIM, that means the server sending this was supposed to send it. It's avoiding spoofing. So we established DKIM records, checking our work, looking at our headers, saying, okay, like this is if you show the original email and you can see it passes SPF, passes DKIM. Setting up DMARC records is really just a DNS record that says if it fails SPF and DKIM, what do you do with the email? The point of setting all these records up is to just not look spammy, so that when you send emails or when folks are investigating your organization, you look and smell like a legit organization. If you just bought a domain name, spun up an XM server on a VPS and started sending emails, you may not even route, but you're going to go immediately to spam. Immediately. So after all this said and done, we have our DMARC records, good for us. So, and then some, email warm up. A lot of times what folks are doing is they're noticing threat intel feeds are noticing limited DNS queries. So, warming up the email box, sending from a bunch of different emails and making DNS queries occur from a bunch of disparate systems over a period of time. You do have to age domains. You have to age them out, run queries on them. If you just buy a domain and 7 days later, you just start blasting, you're going to immediately be blocked, detected, put on block lists, seen as suspicious, all sorts of nonsense. So this is a lot of stuff. You notice all this stuff. And at the end of the day, after you've set up all this stuff, now you have a domain, or you've done this, you've scripted it up, you've automated a bunch of it, but you're doing this constantly. Now you have your domains. It takes one running afoul of something, or one tripping a system, one for any reason, all of a sudden, all of the work that you have is set up and it's gone. You just lost your domain. All the effort that you put in, all the scripts you run, all this other nonsense, you don't have your domain. It's become suspicious, and you got to scrap it. Like, I don't save domains, and I don't know about genuine attackers, but on red team ops or pen testing, if a domain is marked as suspicious, it's dead to me. No matter if I've aged it for 65 days and it's got great category, all of a sudden, if something goes to spam or I end up on any kind of block list, it is dead to me completely. I don't go through any kind of process to save it. So that's kind of a bummer. So that is the old way. The new way is to leverage services that allow you to send emails, to send phishing emails, and to leverage services that can allow you to establish either functions as a service, to establish redirectors. The point is you can leverage the trust in that organization. You're using their systems, and most times you're using their SSL certs. And from an investigative standpoint, you're seeing traffic to Microsoft or to Confluence or to Jira. So that's what we're going to talk about now. As an example, I went up a month or two ago and I started up a free Jira account. And so I created this, project called Gone Phishing in Jira, and I created a board. And I went in and I established the board as publicly accessible, so you didn't have to sign in with credentials. And so you just look at the Jira when you add an app, when you're in the Jira board and you're in an issue, and you can do all sorts of stuff. You add your links, add your text, add attachments, all sorts of interesting things. Conversely, you can use this for C2 as well, wherein you create, you send your commands to the Jira board, base64 encoded, and the implant is set up with the credentials to go in, log in, pull the commands from the board. What do the incident responders see? They see incidents going back and forth to Jira, or they see network traffic. So similarly, in our board, we have this opportunity to send emails. Now, I'm going to go on a quick aside here to say that I believe this has either been fixed or the demo gods made it happen and I can't make it happen again. From a free account, you are really not supposed to be able to send an email to a non-Jira member, but I did. And the way I did it, I can't do anymore. So I don't know if it was a fluke, a bug, a nightmare, a fever dream, but you can't do this anymore, or maybe you can, and I just haven't spent enough time. So I was wanting to send an email to just a random email address. And you notice we couldn't do that because it's not been added to the group. Well, I was kind of doing a little bit of inspection. And so as I was watching the requests go back and forth, I noticed this response from the server that says disable sharing to emails is true. So you can either just write, it was setting a variable on that you could change with JavaScript on your side. So I simply changed disable sharing emails to false. And I ended up sending myself this email, which was pretty cool. So I get this email, I can have links in it, and it's inviting you to go either view the issue or go to this link here. Now, like I said, I couldn't reproduce that recently, so it's either been fixed or who knows what. But I did a workaround to that would be you have to send 2 emails. And what I think is interesting, so here's the email being sent. It's being sent by the name that I decided for my project at Atlassian.net. Right, and then here it's going to, but I pass SPF, pass DKIM, and I am sending this email leveraging their SMTP servers. So it's coming in, it's great. Now, what's funny is I sent an invite to myself because since after a while, I couldn't just send emails to random email addresses. I decided to send an invite, and that invite went to spam 50% of the time. So your mileage may vary, but one of the workflows for a Jira would be to invite the user to join the team. And especially if it's a Jira heavy shop, they might just click it without thinking like it's Jira. And then you go in, you have, you're leveraging Jira as a phishing situation. So now I'm going to show some videos and we're going to wrap up the talk with just final videos showcasing how to leverage different services. So this is going to be one more instance. And this is one of my favorites. Works like a charm. You don't have to do any prep. You don't have to buy a domain. You don't have to send anytime. You literally just start an API management service in Azure. You do have to use the legacy one, the version 3. So I created this API management service. Now I'm going to start this video and we're going to talk through what's happening. So I logged into my Azure account. I created this API management service and I'm not going to use it for its intended functionality at all. Once you dig into the service, what you'll find is you have these notification templates. And these notification templates would be for like inviting others to your project to collaborate or what have you. So here I'm struggling to find it and I say, forget that. I'm just going to type in templates. So if we go to notification templates, these are the pre-built templates that you can control for emails. Now you have total control of the body and the sender. So you can have your rich, well-formatted email, and this is going to be sent from a Microsoft email address. And so here I'm demonstrating you have total control of the body of the email. So all I have to do is go and add a user. Now you can also script it. You can do this onesie twosie, red team style, very targeted spear phishing. You can also script it up to blast through and iterate over a list. And so I'm now inviting a user to my project. So as I send this email invitation, if we wait a moment, we notice the email comes in. I actually had sent it twice. So you see 2 emails, testing, you know how it goes. So here we have, you have total control of this. So I just sent an email, but look where it came from. It came from mail.windowsazure.com. All right. So this is an example of being able to send using Microsoft's own email servers against them without having, and this was from a free Azure account. And that's HackerTyper, because all good demos have to have HackerTyper. You don't have a black screen with green text. What are you even doing? So looking at the original message, we see that's a Microsoft IP. It came from in the SPF, DKIM, signed by Microsoft. You have total control. This is just showing you that I can change who it's coming from based on my whim. So we'll go in and you can change that to, you have total control of the from. And I just demonstrate that here. Going back into templates, you can change the from. Total control. So that's neat. Now let's leave the realm of phishing. This has been talking a significant amount about kind of setting up phishing domains and then here we go. Now I want to talk about utilizing trust, abusing services for redirectors. So this would be when you want to be able to have traffic be destined to, in this case, it's going to be Microsoft IPs, destined to an endpoint and a DNS name that's Microsoft and signed with SSL certs that are from Microsoft. This is a simple way to set up a redirector using Azure Functions app. So this is not, again, we've seen it with Lambda. We've seen it with a lot of different functions as a service providers. So this is just showcasing that. So what I did was I created an Azure function app. And in the function app, you have the capability to have a proxy. So if we go down to proxy, I'm going to create a new Azure function app proxy. And what I'm saying is I'm naming my proxy. I'm giving it a route template. So the route template says, do I want to map one, this path to this path? Basically, what I'm doing with this route template is saying all requests, all subsequent URIs are going to be forwarding to this website that I own. Is just a goof. It's called whatsmyip.com. What? And so I need to designate that I want the entire request to go that way. You can do a lot of different things, add headers, mess with it. But basically, my C2 server could be called the whatsmyip.com. And I'm masking it behind this, rva-pipefish.azurewebsites.net. So that endpoint, and here I'm just fixing up the route, and I'm basically making sure that I say, all requests for files and paths and everything maps to, it's mapped. So now, if I browse to the domain that's given to me by the Azure Function Proxy, that is going to proxy all web requests through this function as a service and end up to my website. So I'm going to showcase that in a minute. But think about the investigative troubles that are going to happen. You're seeing traffic that's heading to Microsoft IP space and a Microsoft domain name. So here me browsing directly to what's my IP, and that gives me my current IP address. Now, if I browse to the Azure Function Proxy URI or URL, I'm going to the same, but I'm coming from, it's proxying through, and now I have this IP address. And in a moment, you'll see that IP is owned by Microsoft. Point being is, if C2 endpoints are utilizing this, what you're going to see traffic egressing towards Microsoft-owned IPs with a cert that's from Microsoft. That's very difficult to deal with. So, this is a simple drawing of what's happening here. I'm going to the AzureWebsites.net, and it's passing back to my C2. So this is definitely obscuring the path, and it's free. This is all for free. And so here's an example of looking at the cert. I have an AzureWebsites.net cert signed by Microsoft. Just makes investigations a little tough. And if we do a who is on the IP that I'm coming through, it's Microsoft. There you have it. So this is the last demo that I'm going to go through, and then we're done for the day, and I'll hand it over to Dan, who's going to hand it over to somebody else. You can do the exact same thing, free account with Cloudflare workers. So I created this simple Cloudflare function that's saying, take everything that comes to this domain and pass it to my C2 server. So exact same process. We look, if I want a quick curl on what's my IP, we see my IP address. If I do a curl to the endpoint for Cloudflare, which again, you get a Cloudflare DNS name, which you can control aspects of it. We get it's coming from a Cloudflare IP, and it's Cloudflare. And if we look at the SSL cert, I'm about to, we see that it's a Cloudflare SSL cert. So I would love for you folks to noodle on and maybe even drop in the Discord or in chat all sorts of thoughts and ideas on ways that this can impact your risk model, this can impact your threat model, ways that you can proactively defend against or detect. And then Noah's going to spend some time doing that voodoo that he does. But yeah, this is just showcasing the cert. So just a couple real quick thoughts on it. Maybe, SaaS email send it from the org's domain, help out a little bit, encourage the use of a company portal so that folks aren't ending up, trusting emails and constantly going to it. Maybe information is disseminated and you go to the company portal where there's jump offs. Prepare the users for the email, sending an email as the organization being like, you're going to be getting an email that maybe looks sketchy, something along those lines. And then, I don't know, network baseline for anomaly detection. I'm kind of staying shy of going into deep remediations because I want, the folks that actually do it well to talk about it. But that's my talk. Thanks for coming out.
Awesome, Nick. That was really good. I think we got great response. People were like, wow, you were going at a lightning speed. So you might have done this once or twice, is what you're saying.
I did, and I was keeping it to 30 minutes. This is the third time I've done this talk, and about the 400th time I've used these techniques to gain unauthorized access to systems and data.
Awesome. I mean,
I say 52 slides in 30 minutes is pretty good.
So one question in the Discord was, so Cloudflare is acting as your proxy is the question.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. Right. Yep. It's acting all these functions as a service, consuming it, pooping it out the other end, coming through their infrastructure, obfuscating the nonsense that is my career.
Cool. Well, I think you gave a bunch of blue teamers some headaches because you're like, oh man, like this is what they're doing.
And your shirt changed. I just noticed you've got your blue team shirt. Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
I did tease that my wardrobe might be changing throughout this day, right? So hey, that was a great talk, Nick. and just to kind of remind everybody, like, this is being recorded. It will be put into the recordings channel on the Discord server, so make sure you get in there. They might take a little bit of time to get posted, but we're happy to be sharing it. So yeah, great, Nick. Don't see a lot more questions, and we got to jump on to Noah's talk, but thanks a bunch, Nick. Great work.
Dope.